Good evening, everyone. Muito boa tarde para todos. Just a couple of words in Portuguese. Muito boa tarde, bem-vindos a mais um congresso, o 49º da Luso-American Education Foundation, que este ano é sob os auspícios, mais uma vez, do Instituto PBBI, Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute, da Universidade do Estado da Califórnia, em Fresno. Esta sessão será em inglês, portanto, eu vou passar já para essa língua. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Luso-American Education Foundation, on behalf of the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute at California State University, Fresno. We welcome each and every one of you. I see that a few people are also joining us on the webinar. And if any of those folks, because this is an interesting topic that I believe has capabilities for a lot of people to participate. And so if those of you who are on would like to become panelists, that's an easy thing for me. Basically, it's just to put you on. So if any of you that are on here on Zoom would like to become members of the panel so people could see you and hear you, if you want to add to the conversation, please just feel free to join in. Actually, we have one that's going to join in right now. Thank you so much. So I want to promote Rosa Matos to be a panelist as well. And so if you would like to, anybody else, please join in. So once again, thank you all for joining us. To have you as the theme is digital saudade. I sometimes am not a fan of the word saudade, but young people, younger generations have been able to give it a little bit more of an uplift. Saudade to me was heavy and, pesava muito, but now we kind of look at it with a different tone, and that's great. So it is technology and preservation of identity in and cultures. It is basically a panel on how digital media, social media platforms, podcasts, and virtual archives are shaping the future of the diasporic connectivity. And so, my first of all, welcome to all three of you that are here, four, including Jose Luis and myself. As I mentioned before we got on, and thanks to all of you who are joining us on social media outlets as well. Thanks to all the people in the groups who have been sharing some of our presentations. We've had 60 and 70 groups, and that's great. Yesterday, our panels in total reached over 4,000 people, which is good for us, an academic, cultural conversation. And so we want to welcome Inês Eiras. We want to welcome Marissa Silva-Rocha, and joining us also, and I'm very pleased to have you, Rosa Matos. All three of you, and we are sad that Michael Pereira is not here, but he had an emergency. He handles a few of the Facebook pages for some of the festas. I think about 3 or 4 different ones throughout Central California. The biggest one, Our Lady of Miracles. He handles that, and he handles a few in the South Valley here as well. And one of the members of our foundation couldn't be here as well. But we have a great group, and so there's one more person that will be more than happy to join in as well in a little bit. So we'll see if we can. My first question to you is, and I'll start with Dinesh. Nice to see you after we saw each other in the Azores.
Nice to see you.
Just saw actually a clip of the sister city. So renewal and leadership. How, in your perspective, Inish, and first of all, before you answer the question, if you don't mind, and it'll be for everybody else, tell us a little bit about your particular group and your particular presence, because you have a large group here in California. And then from there, the question is, how do you feel social media, podcasts, and other digital platforms help renew Portuguese identity and culture in California, while making this relevant to a younger generation who, as we all know, increasingly global, and not just global, but also very present in the digital world. And it's not just that. I was on vacation right before school started. We were getting on to go someplace, and we were at the terminal. And I can tell you that everybody, living people, my generation, everybody was on the phone. So it's not sometimes just the younger generation. I think it's become we've all acquired this taste. And I'll start with Anish. Once again, happy to see you.
Nice to see you, Dinesh, once again. I wanted just to introduce myself. I'm Inês Eiras, and I'm in the East Bay. I have a platform on social media, and the platform that I use is Facebook. It is a Portuguese cultural and social events group in California, and it's been uh, intact for 13 plus years. The mission of the group is to promote our events, our festas in one place where people can just follow and know what is happening in the community. And that's, and also to know a little bit about Portuguese culture, what's happening in Portugal, and kind of intertwining the two, the culture here in California as well as some of the culture in Portugal. And as far as social media, it's very important to divulge culture, information. Podcasts uh, are very watched. A lot of the younger people are using Instagram and TikTok and Reels and stories and all different things now. I'm more traditional, and I stick to one platform because I find that it's just easier to have one platform, especially when you have a lot of other things going on in your life. What was the other part of the question? Did I miss anything?
I think Denise asked you to say something about yourself, about the group that you belong to, and that's basically that.
Yeah, as I mentioned, I started the group about 13 and a half years ago, and it's called Portuguese Cultural and Social Events in California. Um, it it is a group that focuses on posting events and anything to do with culture and social things for the Portuguese community in California. And I do bring in posts from Portugal just to, um, introduce the Portuguese culture from Portugal to the Portuguese Americans here, because we do get different people from different generations. Some are fourth, fifth generations, and some don't even know anything about the Portuguese culture. So they're just trying to get a glimpse. And people come in and out. They don't always stay forever. So it's a place where you visit. You decide whether you want to stay and follow, or you decide you want to follow something else. That's just how it is with social media.
People are trending toward, Instagram, TikTok. You keep it, on Facebook. Do you find that you're getting an older crowd, or do you have any idea?
Well, my experience is that Facebook tends to be for Generation X boomers, and there are millennials too, and there are different, the Zs and the alphas. But in general, I think that the Instagram is younger, boomer or less, X and millennials, and then TikTok is even younger with millennials, Zs and alphas, mostly Zs and alphas. That's what I perceive it to be. Some of the younger people in the group may have a different opinion.
Sure. Thank you so much, Inês. Marissa, tell us a little bit about, of course, yourself and your group, and the same question. How can social media podcasts? You've also been doing and have done some podcasts, and how does that get younger generation involved, or what do you feel about that?
Sure, absolutely. My name is Marissa Silva-Rocha, originally from Little Portugal, San Jose. I reside in Hilmar. I actually have a podcast called A Conversa that some of you have already been on there. And we originally started on YouTube, Facebook, and Spotify. And then it morphed into something else. So it started as a traditional interviews during the pandemic, and it would last 30 minutes to an hour. And I noticed that during the second season, so the first season we had 50 episodes, and then during the second season, I noticed that once our lives started to become more normal, people were busy, right? So they didn't have that time to spend 30 minutes to an hour all the time to watch the interviews. So I started to notice that during season 2, and I knew that something had to shift and something had to change. So during season 3, we started to introduce short reels, and that was more so to gain not only more attention and more audience, because that's just how the algorithm is now designed to give reels more views and more exposure. So I knew that that was the way to go, because the traditional videos on there, the algorithm had bumped them down and the reels were going up. So I knew that I had to change it because the pandemic was also gone and things were definitely changing. So once we did that, I definitely saw the reach was way bigger. Also, the attention of the younger audiences were being grasped, and also the program began as a hybrid where it was a radio program too. So it essentially began to help bridge the communities in the United States and the Azores and Portugal with introducing music that not necessarily everyone here is listening to or has been exposed to. So a lot of that music was Portuguese hip hop, which I love. I love it way more than English hip hop. I love it. And it also featured fado, pop, and lots of contemporary, but it also featured lots of traditional. So it would give them a little taste of what's happening now, what has been happening in Portugal, and what has happened in the past that keeps our roots, binded there. So I knew that was changing. Once I wasn't doing the radio portion of it, I had to find out a way to still be creative and still to grab the attention, not only of us, but of the younger generation too, because it is so important. So that's when the reels came to play. So we're on our season 6 now, and we have over 100 episodes in the series. And that seems to be, the hit has been the 30-second to 90-second reels. And I changed the format a little bit of the program, which I'm a little bit OCD when it comes to like formatting and things, that everything has to be the same. So if you look at a Mal Conversa on YouTube or Spotify, you'll notice that everything is pretty much consistent and everything looks the same. That's just something that I like to do. So when I switched it to reels in season 3, 4, 5, and 6, I maintained the same format, which it's kind of a mixture of slides mixed with live video. So I have done some episodes where there is like photo collages mixed into it too, which is very engaging with the audience because it makes you learn more about the person. You get to see more photos of the person. But to make it more quicker, more shorter, just to stick to the slides and videos where the slides have the questions, and essentially the slides just say the same questions every time. What is your name? Where you're from? What do you do? And a lot of times on that part, what do you do, becomes a conversation of what do you do for the community? And we've introduced a lot of youngsters. So we've interviewed lots of youngsters, which has broadened the audience too, which is really, really cool. And it catches on and it's something fun. Like when they see me, they're like, hey, juiz na cabeça, because at the end of every episode, we say the same thing. We're very consistent. We say, até a próxima, juiz na cabeça. And that's something we've been doing since season 1. So it's very engaging. And I established it in 2020 and we're now in 2025. So it's something that it's repetition, it's repetitive, and that's what people like to feel a connection to. They notice it, they recognize it, they see the logo, they know what it is. So it's something very exciting for me. I really love to do it. It's something I'm passionate about. And it kind of morphed into more where now I'm kind of like documenting as far as Amal Conversa goes. Now it's morphed into, not only is it podcast and interviews, but it's also, you know, videography. It's also little clips of our events and our bullfights, our Torada Corda, our Praça, our Torada de Praça, or when I go and travel in Portugal and the Azores, it's, you know, if I'm in a Fado house, I'm filming that, and it's really fun. It's really engaging. So not only am I grasping audiences that love Fado, for example, or that love, you know, Tauromaquia, that love Torada Corda or the Praça, it's kind of like, it's really good because we're touching everything here. Not only are we touching the festas in California, but we're also engaging with people in the Azores and Portugal. And that's exactly what the whole point was when I started. And I'm finally, 5 years in, I'm finally like starting to see that blossom and bloom. And it takes time and it takes a lot of hard work. And it's been very rewarding. It's been really fun. It's been a fun journey. It's been awesome making new friends, meeting new people. And another thing that's been really fulfilling for me is sharing our culture with people that either don't know it or want to know it. And I think for me, not only, there's two parts here, like, okay, we're very orgullosos, we're very prideful, the people that know and speak it and live and breathe it, right? But then the other part of it is I'm very passionate about sharing with others that have no idea what it is, with other cultures and just with Americans and everyone, like, what is Portuguese? What is Portugal? So for me, it's really fun. And yeah, I think for me, I'm mostly on Facebook, but I've been really trying to branch out of that. And I've been trying to do more Instagram. It's so hard for me. I'm kind of like Inês, where I'm more old school. I like the Facebook, but I'm really trying my best to get out of that little bubble. TikTok, I did TikTok for a little bit, for about a year or so. Then I got off for about a year, and now I've started up again. So we'll see exactly where that account's going to go. Right now, I have it more so for music, but it may also form into Amal Conversa too. So yeah, right now Amal Conversa is just on Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
Thank you, Marissa. And Rosa, Matos, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate that. It was a great surprise and wonderful. Tell us about your group and a little bit about yourself, first of all, as everyone has, and then a little bit about your group, Portuguese.
Absolutely,
I see it there,
absolutely.
Portuguese in the Bay Area. No, I
Pleasure
see
to
it.
meet you,
What's-
by the way. I don't think we've ever been formally introduced. I'm Anna. Nice to meet you, Denise.
Nice
And
to meet
I'm
you
not
too.
familiar with who Senor José Luis is, but nice to meet you as well. I know who Marissa is. And Inês has been my partner for years and years and years. In fact, she is a little bit of the reason why I'm here today. My name is Ana Rosa Matos. I'm the owner of M Photography, and I capture mostly Portuguese events here in the Bay Area. And I also have my daughter, who's my assistant and helps me with that. Inês actually brought me into this world. We met at Newark at a festa. Said she needed a little bit of help with her group, and I'm pretty techie. So I think it was about 14 years ago, Inês, that we've been friends now, and we've been helping each other out. And the reason I have Portuguese in the Bay Area behind me is because that was a group that I inherited from another group that I was also in, and he also needed some help and really didn't have the time to, because it does take time, to grow the groups and to oversee the groups and make sure they're positive places and filled with nurturing information and important event information. So I noticed his group was going downhill with a lot of spam, and so I said, sure, I'll take it on. And here I am now, the owner of the group. It's actually probably the oldest group in California. It was established 15 years ago. We just celebrated our anniversary. Inês now runs her group solo, as I've kind of taken a back seat with everything and kind of stepped back from social media a little bit to enjoy more of real life and my photography and celebrating my Portugueseness. I've been involved with the community ever since I was 12 years old. I was the organist for a children's choir in Santa Clara. I also was the principal organist for one of the big choirs in San Jose at Five Wounds. I've also been the organist for the Half Moon Bay Choir for years and years and years. And so I've covered a lot of different aspects of the Portuguese community, and now through photography and Portuguese in the Bay Area, That's where my passion is, especially in photography. I think no better way to capture and really share what's still available in our Portuguese community than by being at these festivals where I work as a team with my daughter. We capture photojournalism as well as, the typical portraits and all that fun stuff. But it's been a growing experience for sure. I'm mainly only on Facebook. I'm not on Instagram. I don't do TikTok. I really don't do anything else except for Facebook because honestly, I dedicate my time to something and I want it to be productive and fruitful and beneficial and clean. And I'm not into self-promotion at all. I don't use my group, to promote myself or any businesses or anything that I'm doing. I rarely even talk about the fact that I'm a photographer in my groups because I really want the groups to be true. Like Inês is a group as well too. We're very true to ourselves and our standards and our groups and promoting the culture. And mine is more Bay Area, based, where Inês was more California based. But Inês is phenomenal about sharing, everything from all over the world, and also if there's one thing that I think both of our groups have done is the help and assistance, especially during COVID, because that was a tumultuous time. It was a very negative time. A lot of our elderly were basically, stuck at home, weren't able to attend these festas. There were no festas. And, we broke through together as a team and made sure that we took care of our community and explained where they could find help. Many a time too, there are, a lot of people that are suffering and need financial aid or need just, a hug, a virtual hug. And we are there as well for them. And happy to always give dates out to festas and just, enjoy what we've cultivated together.
Thank you. So let's talk a little bit about, I'm going to combine a few of these questions that I sent to those earlier that had received them, and a little bit about the engagement and the participation online. And I think all of you touched it, from Facebook, from podcasts, from Spotify, from different outlets and different ways to do it. But and I'll start again with you actually, yeah, I'll start again. I'll pick on you again, Inish. So I'll start with Inish again. How do you get people engaged in a group like that? Or how do you get especially second and third generations engaged, and make them active in your community, number one. And then number two, besides posting the information, what else you find that has been relevant that, and of course, by the hits and the people who, I mean, you put something out and you have, 10,000 people that like it, and then something that you think it's great and only 500 people, put a like or anything on it. So first of all, how do you get people involved and engaged in it, engaged in a dialogue, in a positive dialogue, obviously, and not political, because we don't want to go there, in such a divisive world. But how do you get them involved, and um, how do you manage the content as well?
That's a good question. Getting people involved is really about posting things that are authentic, that are informative, that people are interested in. People are interested in, um, what it's like to live in Portugal, and they're interested in, uh, what's going on at a festa. Sometimes they engage when you talk about, hey, what should you do when you go to a festa? What should you just sit down and eat sopas, or what else is there to do? And it's nice to acknowledge that there's a big group of people that are volunteering and that have been volunteering an entire week to put on this function. So it's nice um, to make sure that people are recognized, and that you post their photos, post people that are working, that are making things happen, because people love to see themselves, their family loves to see themselves, their grandmothers love to see their grandchildren. If photos are being posted in is the sound off? Can you hear me?
I think we lost Anish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's been having issues. I've
Yeah.
been watching throughout the day. He's been having issues.
Oh,
So
okay.
he'll probably hop back.
So, yeah, so I think the more authentic your posts are, and the more they are less about you and more about other people and about the community at large, people are very interested in information that is valuable and interesting. News that isn't necessarily political, but interesting. Did you know that now you need to have this, visa or whatever if you're American and you're visiting in Portugal? Different things like that. Tips, things that we can all benefit from. So people are interested in good information that makes them a better citizen, a better Portuguese American, a better community member, a better friend, a better, just in general. So sharing fun pictures is great. People love to see pictures of capes and children. Children are just adorable. There are controversial things that if you post, not everybody loves bullfights, for example. So, but people will pick what they like, they'll put their likes on what they like. People that are involved in those festas, they usually will like their festa photos and they come back and they look at them. So we share photos that the organizations want to share. We share them as a group because we're sharing them for the whole community. Again, it's a way to honor the entire community. And also we like to promote fundraisers and special events that will help, promote the Portuguese language. For example, this conference, we've shared a lot of Denise's interviews and anything that's beneficial for the community at large. And it's really hard to handle a whole state, and sometimes I'm asking for help. So my other way of engagement is to really ask for the village. I need everyone to help and share, because at the end of the day, it's not for me, it's for everyone. And we all benefit. It's for the greater good. And I don't know what else to say other than, being authentic, being interesting, being different.
Wonderful. Yeah. I lost you guys for a little bit, but I was able
We
to keep
did.
it. Yes, but you guys continue. I was able to listen to it on Facebook.
So yeah, engaging is about the photos, about the information, about the authenticity. And also people want to feel safe. They want to feel like they're in a place where people have been vetted and there's not going to be a lot of, people pitching products and things, because then it takes away from whatever it is that your mission for your page is. So every page has its mission. If you have to decide if you want to sell information culture or if you want to sell products. So it's a mission that you have to decide up front.
Yeah, it's important to have a vision for any page as well, just like any organization or any product or any educational institution, etc. Marissa, the same thing, engagement. How do you find engagement, especially in in the podcasts? Sometimes we did many podcasts through Palcas, Angela Costa Simões and I, for I don't know how many years, but in the beginning it was really easy to find people, and then as time passed a little bit, it was harder and harder to find folks who wanted to share their stories. but in your case, how do you find the material? How do you get it engaged? And you've already explained as far as the reels are concerned, and how they're, how they build up also a community of young people who are more interested in that type of a product. But how do you keep it interesting? What's your take on it?
I think once we transitioned, it was very easy just to go with the flow. That doing it as reels instead truly just took on a life form of its own. And I didn't really have to think it through. It was something very organic. But I think I touched upon it when I first spoke about it, where we're interviewing more so of the younger generation, and that is pulling more of the younger people who are either friends of that person or family members of that person or just followers in general. Like, oh, well, what's a mal conversa? What is going on? So with every new interviewer, you get a possibility of new followers, new engagement, and it's very organic. So I would say it's very organic. The number one way to grow your audience, obviously, would be through sharing through the groups. Also, people interacting with it and sharing it on their own is a very big plus too. And pretty much the reels is where you're going to get your engagement. Kind of like Inês said with your photos, you do get engagement too with the photos, which is very good. She was mentioning something about in her group where they say like, oh, if you're going to Portugal, what do you recommend? And then they share photos and things of that nature. I think that's very important for engaging. I think questions obviously would get them answering you back, and that's how you're gonna talk with them. And engaging is the number one thing that social media and the digital world want us to do. So at first, years ago, it wasn't so much of that. It was more so just getting things out there. And now it's more so they see that social media has kind of in a sense, in a way, kind of deteriorated humankind, right? And that's a whole other topic of its own. So they're trying to kind of erase what the damage that has already been done. And they're trying to say, now we got to engage with each other, okay? It's not enough just putting a like, or it's not enough just watching it or looking at it. Now they're enticing us to actually comment, talk with each other, and also, like Inês mentioned, being authentic and having authentic posts that people relate to or people like. More so, I think she and Anna were saying their groups are more so about events. So the people will know that and go to them for the events. Kind of like with me, people will know about the bulls or whatever. So then they come and they ask me. So it's kind of everyone and every page has their own mission, like Senhor Denise was saying. And I also admin for groups too. I have two groups. I have Portuguese Unidos Venceremos, and I have the Portugal Azores Madeira that I was invited to admin with Joseph. He's from the Massachusetts. And my group has about 3,000 and his has about 20,000. And the thing that I like the most about the groups is that it's similar to Inês and Anna's groups, where we get people from all over. So that alone is very engaging, because they'll see something and they'll connect with it. Like, oh, my grandma used to have that. And, I haven't seen it for the longest time. And I think that's the coolest thing about it, is connecting with strangers, and they're from all over the place. Just like in one of the groups, I met somebody from Hawaii that had a grandfather that was one of the royal guards to the royal family. So you never know who you're going to meet on those things. And it's really cool for that. But yeah, I mean, it's the engagement comes with sharing, with talking, with being expressive. Algorithm loves keywords. So if we're being expressive, then more things that we are talking about will start populating. And it's like a whole new world. So it's very fun.
Thank you. And building upon that, Anna Rosa, same kind of question, but also also the material that one decides to put on these groups, or that people share, there has to be a constant monitor of this, as you were saying, because then, I mean, if you're Portuguese in the Bay Area and people are putting, something about, I don't know, their shoe size, when they live in Honduras, that doesn't have anything to do, with the Portuguese in the Bay Area. So that is where the administrators and their job comes in. How much, of that is kind of a ongoing chore, number one, and also sometimes you have to make, I'm sure, decisions. Do I put this or do I not put this? Is this interesting or is this not interesting? Tell us a little bit about what you use for that process anyway. And by the way, congratulations on all of your pictures. One day we have to have maybe an exhibit at Fresno State with your pictures. I think they're wonderful.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Funny you should mention the monitoring, the admin portion of it, because it goes mainly unseen, and one of the downfalls of Facebook is when you are an admin or a moderator, your name appears there. And obviously you're targeted sometimes because people don't agree with why you're not letting them post, another third, fourth, fifth post of the same thing in the same day. What keeps these groups interesting is diversity. And what keeps them real is standing by guidelines and standing by what you have out there. Because the minute you start letting these groups turn into advertisements for God knows what, you've lost interest. Nobody wants to see you promoting yourself over and over again, but they do want to see that beautiful picture, remember Inês, of that wedding cake? How many views did that get? How much interaction did that get? And it was a beautiful 3-tiered wedding cake with the Gal de Barcelos, and everybody loved it. Simple, but everyone loved it, right? And that's the thing with this group. The joy for me comes in helping that older person who didn't know about that wonderful sweet bakery in Santa Clara that I'm so honored to have in my hometown, or how amazing Inês is at fact-finding and history. She knows her history like nobody's business. And what I also appreciate about her is her humility and how humble she is, because we're not 100% correct and we make mistakes. And we are more than happy to come forward and say, hey, we made a mistake. Can you repost that again? Or, it's not showing up. Let me teach you a little bit about why it didn't show up. Is the post on public? So there's been a lot of lessons learned on both sides, but there's also been a lot of assistance that goes, it just goes along with the territory. And as far as what I've seen being an admin for Inês's large group, and then being, the admin for Portuguese in the Bay Area, and as well as Portuguese for Democracy, I really take it very seriously. I scrutinize what's there. I do what's best for the group, not what's best for me. And I hope that that's always something that I've been true to, and that's reflective in both these groups and why they've grown the way they have and why they're so well respected. It's not just an ad after an ad after an ad after an ad after another ad. And the other thing too, Denise, and something to take in consideration, less is more. I always feel like sometimes when people are promoting themselves and they're promoting themselves and sharing, yes, it's great, but people also get turned off by that too. And, as an admin, I'd get people on the down low hitting me up saying, well, that's the 14th post for that person today. And, I'm exaggerating, but at the same time too, you really want to grab their attention. You want to hold that attention. You want to give them something that teaches them about the culture, about the events, directions, how to get to that bakery, how to get to that festa, what time is the rosary? They sound like such simple questions, but to someone who's 67, 80 years old sitting at home, and that phone was all they had during COVID, it was so important for Inês and I to make sure that our members were still part of the community, that these beautiful sociedades continued to grow, right? Because as a photographer, I see it all. I see behind the scenes and I see what you see. And a lot of these people dedicate their time not to one, not to two, not to three, but 4 and 5 different sociedades. And these queens and these bands, I can't tell you enough about how I appreciate our Philharmonicas. I've also been a president of União Popular, and my husband has been a mestre of União Popular and now plays for Escalon. And to see the dedication and the time that they put into it, it was fruitful for me to share that, because I needed people to know that it's not this just showing up and playing. They practice. They drive to these 2-hour, 3-hour gigs. They play in 106-degree weather. These queens march, whether or not it's raining or it's hot, you know. And I'm more of the Azorian side, where Inês, I think, was more of the whole Portugal, you know, Madeira, Continente.
I cover it all.
She covered it all, but she was my mentor, right? And I still to this day, I mean, we have a wonderful relationship and we support each other. We're each other's backups. And like I said, you know, Inês really was the pioneer of all this. And there have been groups that have come along, and obviously, you know, they're not too happy that we're not sharing their 15 millionth, you know, promotion of themselves. So they start their own group. You know, it goes with the territory, Denise. It is what it is. But to our viewers and to our members of our groups, and I speak for myself and Inês, for our groups are true to what we always wanted them to be, about Portuguese culture and events, and that's what they should be.
So, one quick question: the most social media groups, and you know the ones you run and the ones you see, because I'm sure you look into others also. You know, everybody that is in some kind of a business always compares what they're doing, you know, with what is going on in that world. And I'll start with you, since we the last one this time, and Rosa. So, do you find that these groups are a bit more about promoting events, and as you've mentioned, promoting, you know, different aspects, whether it be something about Portugal or about a particular place in Portugal or a particular place in the Bay Area or California or some other Portuguese American community? Or do you think that some of these groups have actually, and I say this because I've seen one or two posts. I don't follow the groups as much as I should. I put some things on there, but sometimes I don't have the time. And so, or sometimes, or can they get into a conversation, or do you really even want to get into a deep conversation about something that's controversial, for example, in the Portuguese American community? And I remember, because of the Portuguese for Democracy, I mean, I know that I've been a part of that group, and so, and I've seen a lot of different things. Can we is there a way to have a conversation other than just, you know, of course, you know, the things that are important to you know, have you been to 9 of the 9 islands of the Azores, or have you been to 5 Portuguese cities? I mean, I see that sometimes in all kinds of groups, you know, the simple question, and those, of course, you know, you usually get, you know, literally
Oh,
thousands of posts, you know.
absolutely. Those are the most popular questions. Which island are you from, right?
So
You know?
shall we stick to that stuff? Or, and I'm not contemplating that one is better than the other, okay? I'm just saying, is it best to stick to that kind of post, or is it best to, for example, if there's a debate on, I don't know, I'm just going to use this as an example of the toughness, for example, of some of the issues that are going on with some of our organizations that, you know, at one time, you know, had 500 members and now have 150, you know. Is there a place for online, other than what we're doing right now? But is there a place online in these groups for that kind of a discussion? And I'll ask all three of you that, but I'll start with Rosa.
I absolutely love where you're coming from with this, because I believe in order to grow, yes, discussions need to be had. Unfortunately, those discussions can get very heated and they can turn a group upside down. So for myself and Inês, we always stood by our guidelines, even though there were so many of them, but they were necessary. And it was necessary because we are in tumultuous times. Some people feel one way, some people feel another. They even argue over how you spell filhos. I mean, I know you've seen that, right, everybody? And we are passionate. That's just how we are. So when a passionate topic comes up, it then takes some super monitoring, you know, and I have, you know, guidelines, and I even have, you know, automatic adminning going on, administration going on for Inês' group and myself too, because there are keywords that we try to avoid. And obviously we avoid everything political in the Portuguese in the Bay Area and the Portuguese cultural events in California group. It's just not worth it, because it is very divisive. And there are trolls out there. There are people pretending to be people that they're not, you know, in groups, and purposely trying to, you know, stir the pot. And if anything, these, like you pointed out, these organizations, they're not exactly thriving. It's the opposite, you know.
Struggling.
Right, Inês? And it's the bands. I've seen it, you know, when I started in this community, the Portuguese Mass in St. Clair's, that was packed, full during festas. Now I'm there are plenty of empty seats, you know. The same thing with Five Wounds. It's telling to me that the community is going in one direction and it's not back to the basics, back to festa. And I will say that COVID did really hurt that, because what happened was most of the people attending these festas are also older, seniors, and they can't keep going. They can't keep volunteering. It is
Passed
cumbersome.
away.
And they've passed away. You're absolutely right. They've passed away. And that's the sad part. And there are some halls like Mountain View. They have 2 halls still. I mean, they're still trying to do their thing. San Jose has 1, you know. San Jose at one point had 3 bands, you know. And it's almost getting to the point where I feel like the Valley, which we call Val, is thriving because they have their beautiful festas like the Hilmar Festa, you know, and that wonderful board there that does all that hard work. And they engage by inviting the Luso dancers to perform. We just had Battle of the Bifanas, which was phenomenal, with Taylor Amarant and Brian Flores, and they brought back the Aguias for some of us OGs who still love the Aguias and always will. But, you know, for example, Inês was there. We support that. You know, Angela Simões was there. Again, a leading pillar of our community, always trying to help as she can, you know, on a volunteer basis. We need more of that. We absolutely do. What we don't need more of, though, is the negativity that comes through these groups. You know, there are certain people and certain personas out there that started their own groups because they wanted more attention for themselves than for what they actually should have been talking about, and it's events and culture, right?
I think the more the merrier, you know. I mean, everybody.
Absolutely. But then there's also a price to pay with that. Those groups fall by the wayside because now they're no longer about what they set out to be, or they came out with not the best of intentions and more of a retribution type thing. And we saw that, Inês, all the time with the group, because some performer wouldn't, you know, get their way. Okay, I'm going to start my own group. Well, you know, okay, fine.
That's the Portuguese way. I mean,
see, and that's the thing.
That's why we have 3 bands and had 3 bands in San Jose.
Absolutely, right?
And
2
let me
halls
tell
of
you the
Mountain View.
story of TDS. If everybody thinks it's Teleri, and it is now. Teleri Divino Espírito Santo. And it is Teleri Divino Espírito Santo, but did not start as that. So the IDES, as all of you know, IDES, Irmandade Divino Espírito Santo, started most of the festas, you know, throughout California, when they started set up councils that then became halls.
Yes.
And the IDES had one here in Tulare. And the IDS in Tulare this is beginning of the 20th century, so 1903, 1902. They had an IDS hall in Tulare, and it was ran by, you know, the people, you know, that were immigrants at the time, or had been here maybe 15, 20 years. And they were mostly from São Jorge. And so then a lot of people from Terceira started coming over, and they're troublemakers. And so I'm from there, that's why I can say that. And so the people from Terceira decided that they didn't like the way the IDS was running, and they started their own hall called Terceira Divino Espírito Santo. So what eventually happened, I think that I don't have the exact dates in front of me, but it was, you know, a decade and a half or 2 decades. It wasn't something that happened in, like, you know, 3 or 4 years, and then it just eventually, obviously, they found that, you know, this is kind of silly, you know, we're maintaining 2 halls almost close to each other, you know, in a small community. We should change, and they did, and that was good for them. And that's when it became TDS, as far as Tulare Divino Espírito Santo, because up until they agreed, they absorbed the IDS. In other words, they became one, and they changed it from Terceira to TDS, Tulare Divino Espírito Santo, to involve, of course, all islands and all. So it's kind of in our blood. I mean, in the islands,
inclusive.
the Azores and Madeira is the same way, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
islanders, you know, we have the same thing between São Miguel and Terceira. But even in Terceira, people from one village don't like the other, or in one village, you know, the top of the village, Serra da Ribeirinha, one time was fighting with all the other 3 parts of Ribeirinha.
I don't get it.
there's I'm sure there is. It's all over northern
They're all
Portugal.
beautiful to me.
Absolutely, right?
Northern Portugal and southern Portugal, and I know Zé Luís knows the history of that. There's always been, Porto and Lisbon have been rivals for many generations, for many centuries. So it's kind of, it's kind of carrying that on to the social media world. But Inês, passing to you, and I think, and answered that part, but you may have a different take, which is, the more you keep images and lighthearted and not saying that everything has to be light, but not a very serious debate because
I
it is true. Sometimes people you're facing each other, it's a little bit different, and sometimes people, like all of us, sometimes we say something that 2 minutes later we kind of say, "Whoops, maybe I shouldn't have said it." We kind of regret it. But when it's out there on social media, and then everybody gets involved, and it's kind of hard to take that back. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are definitely stay away from politics. That's like the worst thing you can do is talk politics because we are so divided right now. And it hasn't been this divided ever. And people do get, you know, when they're behind a screen, they have no filters. And when you let go of your filters, you can become disrespectful. And the one thing that we want to maintain is respect. Respect is what we all need. We all need to be loved and we all need to be respected. So I always say, follow the golden rules. Everything you learned in kindergarten still applies today. Treat others like you want to be treated. Um, so, uh, we stay away from those heavy duty topics and make things a little lighthearted. Food is a wonderful thing. Everyone loves food. Food is a way to everyone's heart. And also sports, of course. If you're Portuguese, how could you not like uh, a seleção, or Benfica or Sporting. So there's
Okay.
always something going on at the sports clubs. And of course, we still have our tauromaquias and people that really love the bullfighting, but that's also getting political too. You have to be careful what you post about um, bulls because there are people that are, really anti animal. Um, they consider it animal abuse. So we try to be light, not post anything that would really poke somebody. Um, and yeah, it's too bad that we can't have more serious conversations in a respectful forum, but it doesn't work we find that it doesn't work in groups in social media. At least it doesn't work for me in my experience. But it would be nice to have that kind of forum, but I don't see it. I don't see it on social media where people can
That forum
do it
is,
without boxing gloves.
well, yeah, that forum is important, and maybe it is important to have it on a closed social media. In other words, like Zoom platforms. And as a matter of fact,
Yeah.
Zelwish and I, or he, not I, conducted a meeting with one of our panels in Brazil, and they have something they call quintas culturais, where every Thursday they have basically on a platform where more of a closed, and they actually record some of it and edit it and then put it on YouTube as an archive and for people to see and to look at it. But yeah, I do think that, and I'm going to hear all of your opinions. And I'm going to Marissa next. I do think that groups, it's probably best to be a little bit more lighthearted and a little bit more fun, and
Yeah. And
promoting
I
everything.
also think that it's important to make groups private because then you can vet who comes in and you make sure that it's not a spammer or somebody who's going to do harm to the other members of the group. So good vetting is is a responsibility of a good group and a quality of a good group.
Indeed. And so, yeah, but I think the hard conversations, and we just touched a little bit on it, it's not our main purpose here, but the hard conversation about where the community is, where the community is going, really do need to be had. I think if
Yeah,
we don't
maybe
have
we could have a private Zoom meeting and just,
if we don't sooner or
and
later,
not have it go on AI instantly.
yeah,
Because now everything we're recording here is being recorded for AI.
sure.
So just in case you didn't know.
Oh, I know, but that's okay. Let us promote Portuguese one way or another. Let AI learn what Portuguese is all about in California. Marissa, your thoughts. And I know you've had, several different interviews and you've had, with everything. As a matter of fact, that's actually a good thought as well. You promote a lot of, the festas here in the valley have lots of bullfights, vacadas, and, I'm not talking about just bullfights on the rope, bullfights on the ring, but touradas de praça, but the bullfights. And have you noticed any lashback or at all? But I think here in the valley, a lot of people do are in favor of them. But what are your thoughts on it? Is it best to just keep it promoting, what is Portuguese, promoting what is the tradition, whether it be from bullfights to queens to whatever, and then having the harder conversations maybe away at a different venue? What's your thoughts?
Yes. So on my Portuguese Unidos Venceremos, we pretty much post anything. And I admin to make sure there's nothing negative going on, which thankfully we've never had any issues with that. So we've never had to had, a guideline book, for example. We never had to had a handbook with 101 pages of what is allowed and what is not allowed, because we never had the need to do that. And then for the other group that I help admin, the same thing goes there. We have about 21,000 members, and we've never had really anything of that nature happen. If we do, me and Joseph, we remedy it right away. But it's kind of similar to Inês and Anna's groups, where mainly the things in there are lighthearted and Portuguese in nature. Portuguese Unidos Venceremos is literally anything that's Portuguese. It could be from anywhere. And then Portugal, Azores, Madeira is mainly those three places. But in Portuguese Unidos Venceremos, you'll see a lot of things from California. You'll see a lot of things from Canada. You'll see a lot of things from the Azores, from Portugal. Like I said earlier, it's just about bridging that big gap that we had and making us all closer and more united, just like the title says. But yeah, I've never had really trouble with that. So thankfully it's been good. I do agree with Senor Denise that it is important that we start to speak upon what we feel and what we think about, because if we don't, then we are suppressing ourselves. And another thing I wanted to touch upon, maybe we need to have a part 2 of this, because I feel like it's not an equal balance here, because we have half of the people here are more for very strict guidelines and you can only post about events, where I am not like that at all. I love to promote entrepreneurs and poets and artists and painters and singers. I love to promote them. I love to give them a platform. I am not someone that is very restrictive. Oh, you can only post events or you can only post California. No, absolutely not. I think that does more harm than it does good. Kind of like Denise said, the more the merrier. I'm kind of more for that too. And it's been really amazing as far as all the friends and all the people that are engaging in there. And I can also see there's also prejudice against our own people when it comes to tauromaquia and having that orgulho and that pride of tourada corda or tourada praça. I still see that there is some discrimination even here, just amongst our people within our community. It's very divided. There's still prejudice against that, which I don't know if it's a weird untalkable thing that we have, but it's almost kind of like the bull people stay on one side and then the festa people stay on the other. But in reality, the bull people are the festa people and the festa people are the bull people. We are all Portuguese people, and we all have different things that we like, There's people that love guitarra portuguesa. There's people that love and die for viola da terra. There's people that love rally racing interstate. There's people that love hunting rabbits interstate. There's like a whole group of that. There's like a whole bunch of things that encompass being Portuguese. And I want to showcase all of it. I think the more the merrier. And I think having restrictions really hurt people. And it's very hindering, and it's kind of like we want our culture to grow. And some of the questions that Senor Denise sent us were, how do we make people want to be physically involved and physically calm and physically engaged? Well, number one thing is to be accepting, be kind, be understanding, things of that nature. And I'm seeing a lot of these things still happening within our community where that's not happening. So I think little by little, we will get there, but it's just that consistency, you have to be repetitive. You have to be consistent, not only showing up for yourself, but showing up for others who depend on you and for others who have not even discovered you. That's like the number one thing. Just like I said earlier, one of the greatest joys of sharing my culture is being an activist, being a cultural activist, and sharing my culture. I have a big pride in that. I feel very fulfilled when I share my pride with anyone and everyone, not only my own Portuguese people, but everyone.
Wonderful. And we're coming up on the end. I had asked you guys for an hour, and we are a little over an hour, but I have a couple other questions that I wanted to hit everybody with. And we kind of went all over, but we've answered most of the things that I sent in a roundabout way with everything. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the future. That was my question, number 5, future vision and opportunities in the digital sphere. And so we've already talked about some of these. So it'd be redundant for us to look again at new tools, collaboration, digital projects. But I do think that the digital world is going to be, and I mean, I'm 66 years old, so Lord knows how long it's gonna be for me. But for people who are the next generation, their 50s, and the ones who are younger in their 20s and 30s, it's definitely going to be a very important part of their world. It already is a part of many people's world, and including in mine and Luigi's age group, we already find ourselves using it more and more, and maybe not as savvy as some of the younger people who were born with a phone in their hand, just about. But my question, of course, would be, and I'll start with Marissa on this one, which is so future vision and opportunities in the digital sphere. What new tools and collaborations or digital projects would you most like to see developed to strengthen the Portuguese diaspora in California and even beyond? Because I think that we've discussed a lot in these forums, and in this one, José Luis has been following everyone. He knows that we've discussed a lot about this issue that folks are no longer just in California. I mean, in the West Coast, we've had a community in Idaho for many years, and we've had a community in Texas for many years, but we've had a very small community in Arizona that is now over 28,000 people. I mean, it just grew immensely. We have a community in Oregon. We have a community in Washington State, and of course, we have a very large community in Hawaii. But so, how do we use these tools, and how do we use and what can be developed to bring in these other communities? Because there are many of these other communities that cannot have the luxury of the things that we have, because we have people and we can drive, even though, as it was said, and truly, some of these folks are driving, for a band rehearsal or a rehearsal of a folklore. They're driving, in some cases, an hour and a half, 2 hours. But you can't do that from Oregon, to the Central Valley, or from, although I do know someone who moved to Arizona and used to play in the San Diego band, and he would go there once a month, fly from Phoenix there to play, to practice, and then to play during the festival. So that was commitment. So, but so there are those kinds of examples, obviously. But what tools can we use, digital projects in the digital world, to promote a little bit more of this of the to strengthen our diaspora, being that we're more and more in various cities, and we're more and more in cities that we didn't used to be, even in California. We talked about that. The U.S. Census shows us that we were kind of like in 20 cities in California one time, basically, and now there are Portuguese in significant numbers in over 400 cities in California, because they may not all be now in Tulare or in San Jose, but they are in all the other outskirts that they weren't living 25 or 30 or 40 years ago. So how do we build upon this within the community? And what role can the leaders play in ensuring that these initiatives do succeed? And then I'm going to ask you one other question, and you can elaborate if you like to, but I would just like, it's a multiple choice at the end, which would be, what are your thoughts of a Portuguese museum/archive, completely online? It's very popular with a lot of ethnic groups in the United States. It's completely online. And that's a different animal than having a physical museum with an online page. That's a different concept, and I think all three of you understand it because you understand the online world. So that was that. After we discussed that, what future vision and opportunities in digital sphere do you see? What tools, collaboration, digital projects can strengthen the community and bridge, and make this a bridge to the other communities as well in other states? And then at the end, maybe just if you can answer yes, no, or talvez, which is, would a digital archive, a digital museum, for example, for our Holy Ghost Festas, would that be something worthwhile to pursue, in your thoughts? Start, Marissa.
That's a very interesting question, and that's actually a really hard one. When I initially read that question, I thought of two things, which I'll get back to my initial thought. But my first two things were, I see that me and Sue and Denise have already talked about this before, but I see that there is a need for this. Maybe we can come up with some type of program where we have guitarristas that come from Portugal, and they do type of classes for students. We do an enrollment and they learn the music. It can be like 6 weeks, and then another one comes, or however they do it, or it could be months, it could be whatever the institution decides, but I think it's very important to do that. I think that Fado is a very important tradition of ours to preserve and to be active in preserving it. I do see that it will need some help, some assistance. So I know Sr. Denise and I have talked about that in the past, but I think that that program is something that should come to fruition sooner rather than later, as well as the program of sharing Fado within all the universities in California. I think that would be a fantastic idea. I love that idea. But as far as bridging all the different communities within California and all the different cities that we're spread upon and all the different states that we're spread upon, I think we're going to have to come up with some collaborative program that perhaps where officials or leaders or public figures, they are selected and appointed, and then they go to specific festivals throughout the year. Maybe a specific group from California will travel to Texas, and maybe the group from Texas will travel to Hawaii, and maybe the Hawaii group will travel to Idaho, like stuff like that. And we change it. So we rotate it. The people rotate, the places rotate. That's just a collaborative program idea as far as bridging the different communities throughout the United States. But yeah, it would take a lot of effort. It would take a team, definitely, teamwork makes the dream work, but anything with effort and time and perseverance could definitely be achieved.
Right, Inês, your thoughts?
Oh, sorry, Sr. Denise, and one last thing before I hop off, because I have to give the kids their bath. But I do agree that an archive of all of our things in a digital library would be very beneficial. There was something that I came across where a librarian from the 80s started VHSing everything on her TV, where all the commercials, all the programs from the 80s and 90s, and she collected all these VHSs, and she was so scared that our history, like our commercials and our programming, would just be erased and nobody would know how the 80s were so fabulous or how the 90s were so fabulous. So she started to document that, and now they are beginning to turn those VHSs to digital forms and digital archives, which is very fascinating to me. I'm a nerd when it comes to things like that. But I think it would be very beneficial to do that soon, Denise. And if you could do that, that would be amazing. And I just want to say,
Can do it, but I think the community might be able to do it.
yes, that would be amazing. I just want to say thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for seeing you. Thank you so much, Singo de Silva. Always a pleasure to see you.
All right, thank you all right.
Thank you. And I hope everyone has a good night.
All right.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Okay, last, Inês, your thoughts.
My thoughts are that everyone has interests and passions, and that we should gather groups of people based on interests and have discussions just like the one we're having today on a Zoom. I think Zoom is a good thing. And I also feel that we don't want to alienate anyone in the community, and a lot of people are scared of technology. I mean, that sometimes I get scared of certain things, and there's always resources, younger resources that you can tap into, and I feel that there should be more of a partnership with younger versus older generation in bridging this gap, and even being involved in the conversations, but uh, on talking about interests, things that interest them. And it could be on a particular, uh, baking or cooking. I think that's very important for the younger people today. They want to know how to make some of their grandparents' dishes, or baked goods and things like that. Um, and of course, how to bridge communities. That's another way, is inviting people from, another part of the state, another state. And, these are all people that are interested in the same thing. And we have like it's almost like a little club or whatever, where we discuss things that interest us, that fall into the culture that they may not be able to travel to and see or learn. People in Hawaii, for example, they're fourth or fifth or sixth generation, and they would probably want to learn how to make the original malasadas, for example, from San Miguel or from Madeira. So that's just an example. And the other part of your question about digital libraries and digital museums, nobody wants to digital archives. Nobody wants to keep anything anymore. But again, that's a big job to put everything digitalized. But if we can get young and old, teams to work on those things, I think it's a fabulous idea. But it's something that you have to plant a seed, and sometimes it's not something you think about until you lose a loved one. And sometimes the young ones don't think about that stuff when they're able to help. So maybe just plant the seeds, and hopefully we can create that bond and that idea. But as far as how to do it, what to do, I think basically in interest, not necessarily geographic, but pick an interest. Is it music? Is it cooking? Is it baking? Is it genealogy? Is it history? Is it sports? whatever it is that has your heart and your passion that you want to talk about and you want to learn more about. I think we need more of those special interest groups.
Wonderful, thank you. Ana Rosa Matos.
You know, I was just going to say, we're doing it right now. This is digital archiving, Facebook. You know, all these sociedades that have their own pages, you know, these groups that are sharing their photographs, like Paul Machad, you know, sharing moments from the Baudelaire. That's all, as long as Mark Z is good with it, we have it, you know, at our fingertips. I have a cousin who is on the East Coast, and she's into all this digital archiving, and she's always very fond of anybody who's getting rid of anything, any books, any original documentations from any of these sociedades that are, you know, either merging with other ones or just ceasing to exist. She loves that. She thrives on it. And she is working on that. If you'd like her contact, we can talk later.
Sure.
She's been amazing at that. She came to us because, you know, through Inês' group, I invited her to join, and she's just she just is a historian of all things Portuguese and has really enjoyed, you know, what Inês' group has brought to light. So, but yeah, back to the digital archiving. Honestly, we're just doing it right now as we speak. And I think the more platforms, to a certain extent, the better. Each one has their niche. Each one has their target audience. For me, you know, as a proud 55-year-old woman, Facebook is it for me. I do use Instagram for my photography because that's the point of that site for me. My Portuguese in the Bay Area, Inês' group. It was all about
older.
culture, right? All about culture, all about events, all about keeping us going and documenting it, because you can go through and do a search and look back at, you know, September in Gustine and what was that queen wearing, you know, what was that cape like? It's all there, you know.
And with AI right now, it's like we're in heaven because it's easy to find stuff.
Oh yeah. And the more you feed the AI, and I come from a company, I work in high tech, that's all about AI. Let's use it as a friend and not a foe, you know, and I think that's what it comes down to. And I love the fact that Inês and I have always been collaborators together and putting, you know, culture and events and just being as positive as we can be, and, you know, and doing as much for our community as we can and always will.
Yeah, lifting people up.
Absolutely, Inês.
Okay.
That's what it's all about, lifting people up, you know, and encouraging our youth. Luso, kudos to you for what you do every August with those groups. That's what we need more of. I love that. I love that. And these philharmonicas, help them, join them. And these boards, even if you can't be on the board, go help make sopas or go and learn how to do it. I can't tell you how wonderful it is to see Lino Amaral and to see Johnny, you know, hey guys, doing that and going to learn how to cook. I tell you, it's intimidating. You see those 7 big tash of sopas sitting there, and you know you've got thousands of people to feed.
Yeah,
But again,
on this note, I would like to thank everybody out there that makes our community
oh,
thrive.
absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you from the bottom of our heart.
Yes. I have nothing to take pictures of if these people don't continue to volunteer. And by the way, thank you, Denise, for letting me just jump in. That was fun.
And thank you, Luis and Denise, for moderating this session and for inviting me. And thank you for all the people out there that are watching.
Yeah.
And thank you for supporting us.
Yeah, absolutely. Forza.
And the last word is for Silva-Rocha.
No, it's amazing to see 3 people doing different things, but with the same goals of informing, keeping us connected. We need more and more of that. I really appreciate it. And it's my time to thank you, the 3 of you who were in the panel, for all the efforts, because I know that takes a lot of time, a lot of energy to keep that going. I'm an old guy, so I mostly go to the Facebook things.
Nobody's old.
and I keep very informed on the platforms, and Marissa too. I receive things from her, so different things, but all of these contributed to our connectivity and also to our being better informed. You know, there's a lot that we can say about information and how we relate information to back to Portugal, because I think that's one of my pet peeves, but that's for a different workshop. How Portugal knows so little about us, and we can, through these platforms, we'll let them know the importance of the millions of Portuguese from Madeira, Açores, mainland, that have their descendants all over the world and do wonderful things. And Portugal doesn't seem to really recognize that very much. And even I think Portuguese could take a lesson or two from immigration that we have gone through, because I know Portugal is going through some pains about absorbing immigration, and maybe if they understood better what it is to be an immigrant, they might be a little better accepting of people that are trying to make a living. I don't
Thank
know
you,
if
Lynette
You're on
Rosa.
mute. You're on mute.
Okay,
I'm
don't.
on mute, sorry.
Okay.
Thank you all very much. Thank you, Inês. Thank you, Rosa. Thank you, Marissa. We are saying goodbye for now, but those of you who are following our conference, we're coming back at 8 o'clock with Portuguese Women in Diaspora, Writing Between the Lines of Saudade and Identity, which is a presentation on women writers in the diaspora by Professor Yolinda Adão. That will be at 8 o'clock. And then we will be here tomorrow from 8 o'clock. We have sessions at 8, at 10, at 12, at 2, and at 4. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Good
Thank you.
night.
Good night.
Boa
Good
noite.
night.
Boa noite.